Today's objective is I can add and subtract signed fractions and mixed numbers using number lines and those rules that we've been working on for adding and subtracting integers. Let's take a look at our first example. Find the following sum using a number line model. Well, you'll notice if we have -3/2 plus a -1/2, we take our number line and instead of going by full units, we're going by halves. So from 0, you go to 1/2, 2/2, 3/2, and then to the left, -1/2, -2/2, -3/2. So if we're starting at -3/2 from 0, we go to -3/2. If we're adding a -1/2, adding a negative on that number line, you're moving further left. So we move left an additional 1/2. That gets us to -4/2. So -3/2 plus -1/2 is a -4/2 or a -2. Let's do that same example, but without using the number line. Let's just use our rules. Let's write double signs as a single sign. So double signs are those two signs right there touching, and you'll remember plus a negative is minus. So it's -3/2 -1/2. Then you're going to circle the sign that goes with the number. That negative in front of the 3/2 is attached to that 3/2. That negative in front of the 1/2 is attached to the 1/2. And you'll ask yourself, are those signs the same or are those signs different? You're going to notice in front of the 3/2 we have a negative. In front of the 1/2 we have a negative. Those signs are the same. If the signs are the same, we'll find the sum. So you want to find the sum of 3/2 and 1/2. And what you do is if you have a common denominator, you can just focus on those numerators. Since we have to find the sum, we're going to add them. So we're going to take 3/2 and 1/2. That's going to get us to 4/2. Do you have more negatives or more positives? You only have negatives, so the answer is negative. So if we look here, you just focus on the numerators. The sum of 3 and 1 is 4. And if you focus on those numerators, how many negatives we have there? If it's -3/2, that's 1, 2, 3 negatives. How many additional negatives do we have? We have 1 additional negative. You only have negatives running around, so you have 4 negatives running around, so that's 4/2. You remember, when you have a common denominator, you combine the numerators, you keep that denominator. So we got the same answer using our rules as we would have on the number line. -4/2 is a -2. Find the following sum. Oh, the following sum is shown on a number line model. So if you have -1/4 plus 3/4, again, you'll notice in the visual, now we're combining fourths, so we're going to break our number line up into fourths. So if you start at -1/4 and you add 3/4, adding a positive, you move to the right 1, 2, 3/4, you end up at 2/4. Let's go ahead and use our rules. First, you'll notice there are no double signs, so we don't have to worry about that. So all you have to do is circle the sign that goes with the number. The 1/4 has a negative attached. The 3/4 has a positive attached. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are different, so you'll need to find the difference. What's the difference between 3/4 and 1/4? Well, as soon as you have a common denominator, you just keep that common denominator and you combine those numerators. 3 minus 1 is 2. Then you have to ask yourself, so since you have a common denominator, you subtract the numerators, you keep the denominator. Then you ask yourself, what do you have more of? Well, what do I have more of? Do I have more positives or more negatives? If you just look here, once you have your common denominator, you just look at the numerators. There I have 1 negative. There I have 3 positives. What do I have more of? I definitely have more positives. How many more positives? 2 extra positives. That's why it's 2/4. Let's find this sum using a number line model. So first of all, this number line is broken into halves. So first I'll go from 0 up to 1/2. Because it's broken into halves, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this mixed number as an improper fraction, and you remember how to do that. Keep that sign. 2 times 2 is 4 and 1 is 5. So that's -5/2. It'll just make our lives easier on the number line because the number line goes by halves. So if I start at a positive 1.5, adding a negative, we know we need to move left. So I'm going to go left 5 halves. 2.5 is 5 halves. So I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 halves, and I'll definitely end up there at a -1. So on the number line, we can see that this sum gets us to a -1. Let's go ahead and do the same example using our rules for adding and subtracting sign numbers. First thing we need to do is rewrite double signs as a single sign. So what I did in that first step is I took plus a negative and I knew to just make that a minus. Then we're going to circle the sign that goes with the number. Well, what's in front of that 1 1/2? If there's no sign, you know to assume it's a positive. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? One of them's a positive, the other's a negative. The signs are different, so we'll find the difference. I go ahead and I find the difference off to the side. So I take 2.5 minus 1.5, 1/2 minus 1/2, bye-bye. 2 minus 1 is 1. Then you have to say, what do you have more of? What do we have more of? We definitely have more negatives. 2.5 is larger than 1.5. That would be 5 halves. That would be 3 halves. You definitely have more negatives, so your answer is negative. So that's using our rules. If you need to be writing out your number line models with fractions on them, please go ahead and do that. But if you can transition nicely to using the rules, that's what we'll be focusing on in class the next few days. So we have to also be able to add and subtract rational numbers that don't have a common denominator. Still, we're going to rewrite double signs as a single sign. So you know your plus a negative becomes a minus. Are the signs the same or the signs different? So if I look here, that 3/4 has a negative, that 9/5 has a negative. Those signs are the same. We're going to find the sum. In order to find the sum of 3/4 and 9/5, you have to find a common denominator. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead over here and we're like, okay, what would be my common denominator? My common denominator would be 20. How do I rewrite this fraction as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 20? I multiply numerator and denominator by 4. 9 times 4 is 36. Here, how do I rewrite 3/4 with a denominator of 20? I multiply numerator and denominator by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Signs are the same, so we're going to go ahead and find the sum. So I'm going to find the sum of these. I keep my denominator of 20. 15 and 36. 5 and 6 is 11. 3, 4, 5. That's 51 over 20. 51 over 20. 20 goes into 51 twice. That would be 40. How many left over? 11 20ths. So the sum of those is 2 and 11 20ths. Then you have to decide for yourself, okay, do we have more negatives or more positives? Well, if you look here, both numbers were negative. We only have negatives. So So the answer must be negative. So the final answer to this is -2 and 11 20ths. All of this over here is your scrap work. The signs were the same, so we found the sum, and your final answer is -2 and 11 20ths. All right, let's try some with I'm going to try 2, and then I'm going to let you go ahead and try 2. So I need for you to stick with me for the first 2 I'm going to show. First of all, this one here, they already have the common denominator. So all you have to do is double signs as a single sign. Oh, there's no double signs. So you just circle the sign that goes with the number. Circle the sign that goes with the number. Are those signs the same or are those signs different? Those signs are different. We're going to find the difference. You just focus on the numerators. If you have a common denominator, you keep the denominator, you focus on the numerators. So we have 7 negatives, 4 positives. Signs are different. We'll find the difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 negatives. Only 1, 2, 3, 4 positives. Signs are different. You'll find the difference. The difference between 7 and 4 is 3. What do you have more of? Oh, we have more negatives. So our answer will be negative. So that's negative 3/9. We can rewrite that in simplest form by dividing your numerator and denominator by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that's negative 1/3. That answer is a negative 1/3. I'm going to try this one down here with you. And the reason I'm choosing this one, a couple of reasons. First of all, because they are mixed numbers and because they don't have a common denominator. So the first thing I'm still going to do is rewrite double signs as a single sign. So that's negative 2 and 5/9 minus 4 and 5/6. I say, okay, I don't have a common denominator. I need to go ahead and find a common denominator. If I circle the sign that goes with the number, these signs are the same. I'm going to go ahead and find the sum. So to find the sum, I'm just going to take 4 and 5/6 and add on to that 2 and 5/9. Signs are the same. I'm going to find the sum. So if I need to find a common denominator between 6 and 9, I know that that common denominator can be 18 because 6 and 9 both go into 18. So I write an equivalent fraction here. 9 times 2 is 18, 5 times 2 is 10, so that's 10 over 18. 6 times 3 is 18, 5 times 3 is 15, so that's 15 over 18. Signs were the same. They both ended up being negative. Signs were the same. I'll find the sum. So if I find the sum here, 15 and 10, so that's 25 over 18. 4 and 2 is 6. So that's 6 and 25/18. So that means that's 6 plus 25/18. 18 goes into 25 once. How many left over? 7. So that's 6 plus 1 and 7/18. That's 7 and 7/18. Let's hope I didn't make any mistakes on that. So here we have 7 and 7/18. Signs were the same. We found the sum. Signs are the same. Find the sum, keep the sign. What do we have more of? We have more negatives. All you have is negatives running around. What I'd like you to try is I'd like you to try these two examples. So pause the video, try these two examples. Let's see what you come up with. All right, hopefully you pause the video. On this one here, it's already a common denominator. So I just put the 9 there. So then I say, okay, those signs are the same. I'm going to find the sum. The sum of 7 and 4 is 11. What do I have more of? I only have negatives running around. I have 7 negatives here, 4 more negatives here. That's 11 negatives. 9 goes into 11. So first of all, I know my answer is negative. 9 goes into 11 once. How many left over? 2. 1 and 2/9. This one here, hopefully you rewrote your double signs as a single sign. Negative 1/3 plus 4/9. I circle the sign that goes with the number. Oh, those signs are different. That one's a negative, that one's a positive. So I know I need to find the difference. So I'm going to find a common denominator and find the difference. So my common denominator here can be a 9. I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator here by 3. So that's a negative 3/9 plus 4/9. And then I say to myself, okay, those signs are different. I'll find the difference. What's the difference between 4 and 3? The difference between 4 and 3 is 1. What do I have more of? I definitely have more positives. I just have 3 negatives here. I have 4 positives. What do I have more of? I definitely have more positives. So my answer will be a positive 1/9. Hopefully that worked out for you. Please try your exit